I've run through the differences in the swing and the driving positions in the first video. The second one, I looked at close-up striking and the shockwaves available. So in this one, I'm going to run over all the different type of punches and just mention all the extra benefits that you get. So by the end of this third clip, you're going to be in no doubt as to the effectiveness, the power, the speed, the step up across the board in the kinetic punch. I go through a few basic punches here and explain the same basic principles that I use for the kinetic punching and compare them to the boxing punch that people are already using. So I want to talk about reach, something very interesting with the kinetic punch compared with the boxing punch. So with a boxing punch, if I come out and my head is just over my knee there, so I'm just in balance. So for me to throw a boxing punch, I can just about land in. The problem is with the boxing punch is, because I'm swinging in, the angle is much shallower. So the further I am away, the more shallower the angle is that I'm hitting with. So it's really hard to get any energy into the target, get any penetration or hurt as much as you do with the penetration of the kinetic punch. So if I'm out here and I'm just coming out there, so I can just land that by popping my head forward and sinking it in. Let's move further away. So now I'm leaning off balance there just to reach that. And again, it's coming in, and you can see how it's hitting with the lower knuckles. Again, the further I'm stretched out, the more I land with the lower knuckles, and the harder it is to dig the shot in, because it's such a shallow angle coming in. So from the same position here with the two knuckles, you can see how I've got extra drive, and it's because this is a driving position and the angle at the end where it hits is deeper and sharper. It's not a shallow swinging angle. So the further I'm away, I can still hit kinetically and land a hard punch. So I'm going to move as far away as I can, so I cannot reach. I cannot reach with a swinging punch. Swing. See, I'm so far off balance because I have to be closer because of the shallow angle of the delivery. Kinetic punch. So when you lean back to dodge a boxing punch, because of the extra depth of the kinetic punch, if you lean back, you'll still get hit because of the extra drive and the extra range that you've got on it. So if you think, if I'm here and I'm throwing the boxing punch, and as soon as my arm extends, then it runs out of range. I can move my body in to drive that shot in, but I'm throwing myself more off balance. And it's funny how the reach changes. If I'm coming over there and I'm trying to stretch, I'm not trying to move my body at all, I'm trying to stretch out and reach that swing. So drive, drive reaches, swing doesn't, drive reaches, swing doesn't. Extra reach, anybody? So here's another reason you don't get the penetration that you do with the kinetic punch that you do with the swing. So when you look at the knuckles, you've got flat part, flat part. Now whenever I hit anything, or I come in fast and explosive, when I hit anything my arms always move in. So that's that natural sort of movement for moving in. So if I'm hitting with the flat part here, and when I land that on the target, I get a certain amount of time as that digs in before it then comes off. Now if I hit with the outside of the knuckle, now that's the outside of the knuckle there, that is the inside. Outside, inside. So if I hit with the outside, as soon as I land, my hand moves in. Because the outside part of the knuckle is on this slope, as soon as I land there, it fires straight off. So no matter how much I try and dig that in and drive that part of the knuckle in, because it's on the slope, it just spits it straight out and I don't get the time on target. Whereas with the 2, you can see how it's on target longer, that little split second longer, much sharper impact, much sharper delivery and much more power. So when I mentioned before about the kinetic part of the knuckle and when you twist round, and that's the reason that you actually twist and rotate in the boxing punch, is because you're trying to get around on the kinetic part of the knuckle. So when I look here, when I turn and I rotate round here, because it's on that slope, it drives across. So when I'm trying to dig it in, I've got 2 ways I can dig it in. I can either come in here and I have to tense the triceps to dig it in, and what I'm trying to do is get round onto the stronger part of the knuckle. Or I come in vertically here, and if I just drive in there vertically, then as soon as I land it slides off because of the slope. So I'm trying to create a snap as I'm landing in with the boxing punch to dig it in, but the reason I have to dig it in is because it's not on the kinetic power line. So if I come over here I have to dig that in, or if I come out I have to dig that in. If I just push in, it slopes straight off. So there's no need to twist the hand. The only reason you are twisting the hand is because you're not on the correct power, you're not on the strongest power line, and you're trying to get round to it. Let's start with the jab. Look at the boxing jab. So if I'm here in a stance and I'm throwing the boxing jab out, I can either come out vertically, I can come out horizontally, or I can rotate from vertical to horizontally as I come out. Each one of them is a swing. So the boxing jab from the guard comes out and rotates round. Further out, I'm still having to rotate round, and the interesting thing is the closer I am with the swing for the jab, then for me to, if I'm in this position, for me to punch with the jab, then I have to bring my hand back to swing it forward. So that's what you see closer up. With a lot of MMA fighters, when they're closer up, their elbows will they'll be out here because they're trying to get the power, or their elbows will be down because they can either swing this way, down, or you can swing in. So you're looking for an angle. If I'm close up, I'm looking for a big long gap that's horizontal or vertical for me to land with a swinging punch. Whereas when I'm lined up and I'm close, then all I'm doing is just popping straight in. So with the closer range jab in the gloves, then I can either snap in here with the box in, or I can just drive in with the forearm supported. So wherever I am, even if I'm further out, I can just drive straight in. Now, if I come out full length jab, so from here I'm coming out, then there, even though I'm fully extended, I'm still swinging there. That's still a swinging motion. As I come out, the arm swings forward. So with the MMA gloves, the standard boxing punch, again I'm coming out here, and I'm turning, rotating, or I'm coming over there, and I'm swinging in with the jab. So kinetically, from a kinetic position, then rather than swinging over and coming over here on an arc, what I'm doing is I'm driving forward. So from here, I'm going straight in. And so like in the second clip, if there's something in the way here, then I can just come over it with a jab and come round or curve around it. And that's one of the beautiful things about the kinetic punch. So with the straight or cross in the boxing glove, when I'm coming out, I'm either rotating out horizontally or vertically or twisting. Again, same swing. But what happens is when I throw a punch, if I'm here and then I'm throwing the straight punch in, I get that, again I get that whip through. So as I go to throw the straight shot or the cross, my shoulder drops with my elbow, and then I whip the elbow forward, then the punch comes over. With the boxing punch, when you're throwing out, it's only really finished at the end when you rotate round or you come down with a snap. And all the way through that, the lower knuckles are exposed. With the kinetic straight or the cross, then as soon as I throw the straight or the cross, then my elbow comes up behind that and it's supported in the strongest part of the knuckle. So A, that means I'm going to vastly reduce the chance of a boxer's fracture because I'm not exposing the smaller knuckles as I'm throwing the punch out. And B, it means that when the distance changes as I'm throwing the punch, which it always does, then I can finish the punch close here. If it comes to here, I can finish the punch a bit further out. And because it's a drive, I've got that control rather than the swing. So with the straights and the crosses, we're looking at 40% more power than a standard boxing straight or cross. Now, when I put the rip on the end of a cross, the ripping shockwave, that's 70% more power than a boxing snap. So by punching kinetically with a ripping shockwave with the cross instead of the boxing punch, you're looking at 110% more available power in that punch. One punch. Just by tweaking it. So it can make a massive difference. With the Anderson Silva Boxing for MMA DVD, I've had a good look at that, and I don't think there's any point in it where he's actually throwing a kinetic punch. He does talk and he does hit with the stronger part of the knuckle. Now, no matter how I throw a punch, whatever position I throw a punch, if I land on the inside part of the knuckle, it'll always be harder than if I land with the outside. And when I look at boxing gloves, the only position I can actually land with the kinetic part of the knuckle in the boxing glove is over like that, because the thumb is over and underneath here, so the thumb is underneath the chin and out the way when the boxing glove is turned over. So, and that's why you'll see people hooking this way, because it is stronger when you land on the kinetic part of the knuckle. Regardless of how you throw the punch, it's always stronger on the kinetic part. So if I come out here and turn over, then I could throw a boxing swing, but I'm turning over onto the kinetic part of the knuckle, so that will be stronger than a standard boxing punch that comes out and just doesn't even land on the kinetic part of the knuckle and doesn't even come close to the power line. So I'm going to suggest that that's the reason that he turns over there rather than keep it at 45 degrees. At 45 degrees you cannot land that punch on that same knuckle in these gloves because you'll break your thumb. And of course the problem with the twist, or like Anderson Silva when he comes out and twists, is the punch can only be finished at the end. If I'm in the strongest position to finish the punch when I start, then all the way through that punch, as long as I'm on the power line kinetically, then I can finish that punch here. I can finish that punch there. If I'm coming out here and I'm twisting round, then distance changes as I'm twisting round. I have no choice either to finish the punch in the wrong position, or I don't get to the end and I don't have a punch. So kinetically, again, if I'm here and then I go to throw a straight kinetic punch, and I'm out here and I'm throwing a straight kinetic punch, as soon as I throw that, if he moves in, the distance changes, I can still finish that punch in that kinetic position much easier, because I've got control over the drive. It's not a swing, it's not twisting, and it's on the power line, the kinetic power line. The reason you don't want to be turning over is because as I'm coming out, I'm exposing the knuckles. I want to be lined up with the stronger knuckles in line as soon as I throw the punch on the power line, and then I'm not in danger. So when I talk about a pushing position and the hook, then if I put myself in a position where my hand's out in a curve and I want to push from there, then I put my hand out and then I see what's the strongest position I can sort of push. What's the strongest position? I'm out here when I'm pushing. So to me, with my hand sort of slightly facing up there slightly, then that position there feels like the strongest position. There's no pain in me elbow, shoulder, because it's all lined up. Now when I make a fist, again, I have two choices. I've got the outside and the inside. And of course with the boxing glove I can't get the inside. Now if I push on the outside knuckle, you can see how my elbow's lower there. I'm actually pushing straight into the bag there. So directly behind that, it's not being supported by the forearm. And when I push in there, I can feel energy leaking out my elbow here. And there's pressure on my shoulder here because it's not in a stronger position. So for a pushing position, if I put my hand on the side here and push, then there's loads of pressure around the front of my arm here, so that's not a strong position to push. When I turn my knuckle over here and I push on here, I feel loads of pressure on my shoulder here. Just because it's in a weak position, it's almost in a lock. So if I come round onto the kinetic part of the knuckle there, then when I push on that, I get the same feeling in my elbow and my shoulder that I do when I open my hand and push on, which is that strong position with no energy leaking, no pain. So if I'm here and I'm throwing a hook and hitting with the very inside by the thumb, then it's a swinging position. The point of impact is the inside of the hand, 90-degree position behind that, it's not supported. So a standard boxing punch with on the lower knuckles when I'm coming out and hooking in, there, again, straight line behind that, unsupported. Even when I come up onto the knuckle there and I put a straight line behind that, the line is on the top of this forearm and it comes off here. Rather than it being on the kinetic part of the knuckle, it'd be running right down the middle of the forearm. The other one where I turn over and I hit with the kinetic part of the knuckle, but over with the swing, and that's still harder than a boxing punch. What I'm doing there is the point of impact is the kinetic part of the knuckle. Directly behind that, it's totally unsupported, and it's a swing coming in. So the strongest hook available is the driving hook. No swing, apart from a bit at the end, depending on which shockwave you're using. With the left hook, if I come over here, then I'm just dropping in over on that smooth curve and it rips off with a lovely rip, or you can come in deep with it as well. So, and the difference is with the swing hasn't got the extension as you have with the kinetic. So let's look on here now. So basically with a closer kinetic hook, then I'm coming in and I'm still trying to hit in that way. I'm never trying to hit across at 90 degrees, because if they lean back, I miss. I'm always trying to drive the shot in. Now, when I come across like this, it's really, really hard. I cannot drive the shot in. I can only come across. So the person only has to lean back slightly, and then I'll skim the chin. Whereas if I come over and I drive the shot in, then it drives in. So what happens there is, even if they lean back, I'm still coming in. The trajectory of the punch is driving in this way. So even if they lean back, I'll hit the neck or the chest if they're further back, and it'll keep them off balance. So when you look at the trajectory of the hooks here, then when I'm coming over with the outside, or here, or on the kinetic part, but I'm turning over, the energy in the arc of the swing is coming in across and across here. So if I throw any of these punches, he only has to lean back slightly, and I'm just going to miss completely. So with the kinetic hook coming in at the same sort of points that these do, I can either come round in with a bit more of a curve, or I can come out straighter and then just sort of curve round at the end. So with the wider hook, I'm coming out and coming in, but I'm still trying to come in at 45 rather than come in kinetically there, but straight across. I'm trying to drive into the target. If I'm throwing a hook, then it's going to be around this side, because maybe the front's blocked or whatever, but it's that angle. So I've got to match that angle with the kinetic hook. So I can come in there, and I'm still going in to the target and into the body. If I come out, say the arm's here, I come out there, so if you're in the clinch, it can be very difficult to come round with a boxing punch to actually hit them when you're in the clinch. With a kinetic punch, you can throw a punch in the clinch and land directly on their head, just because you've got the curving control and the drive. Obviously, if they're ragging your head round and they've got control of your head, that's going to be harder to land a punch, because you use your head to drive the shot in. But you can still do it. You can just come round and you can literally throw right round their arms because of the curves. So I can come round there, round there, round there, and it's a driving punch, remember, so the hooks are 30% harder than the boxing punches. So let's look at the uppercut off the front leg in the boxing glove. Now, what I'm doing is I'm coming down, and I need to make space to then come up, but again, I can't drive up because I'm not in the right position. So what happens is you come up and you hit with the outside of the knuckle. So you end up coming up like this, but then you come over and you end up hitting, rather than hitting in line with the forearm, because the thumb's in the way, you hit with the outside here. So as you come in, you come up and you hit on the outside. So when I take the glove off, when I'm throwing this, I'm coming up here like this, but the point of impact in the boxing glove is here. My arms move in, and this is on a slope. That means basically that when I hit with that, my hand slides off the target really quickly, and I don't get the depth of penetration. So round like that, or kinetically, I'm just basically coming straight up with the knuckle in line, wrist nice and bent, and I can come up. So from a longer range, I can come up here, there, up. As I come closer, then I can pop straight up there. I can actually pop a little hook round there, so I can change the angle, because it's all about this position. I can just move the angle there, then I've got much more angles available to throw a more powerful swing. Because it's lined up, I don't need to pull it back and swing it round. Then I'm just driving up. So with the boxing glove, when you throw the uppercut, it comes up, and it comes up on the outside of the knuckle here, rather than the inside would be there, but the thumb would be sticking out here, and you'd hit the thumb. I mean, if you were pretty clever, then you could take a chance, but if you caught the thumb, you'd probably break it. But when the thumb's tucked, then with the two knuckles, then I can get around. But the standard uppercut, so as I'm coming in, I'm having to come in and then put a little whip here. So as I'm coming up here and hitting, I'm coming in like that, then I'm having to whip. Again, because it's a swing, it's just a lot more complicated. With the uppercut in the MMA gloves, when I come up with the boxing uppercut, then I'm coming round, and because I can't get on that part of the knuckle, I'm hitting with this part. So as I come round there, I have to sort of whip round. So kinetically, then I can just come straight up, but I can also curve around here, curve around here, curve, curve. There's just so many more available options as long as I'm lined up with the forearm. So with a kinetic uppercut, I can just pop up there, rather than having to come round and swing it round. But look at this movement. If I'm in this position here and I'm coming out and I'm throwing a jab, just a standard jab, then if I go to throw a left hook, then I'm either going to come round here, I'm going to bring my hand round, or I'm going to pull it round to come round here. So from this position of the jab, as soon as I come out here, you know I'm going to hook. It's obvious that I'm going to throw a hook and not a jab. And that's because you have to pull the arm out to then swing it back. So if we look at the position of the kinetic jab, where that drives in, if I'm then going to throw a kinetic hook, then there's kinetic hook. There's kinetic hook. So the angles that are available, and giving the game away, it's really, really hard to tell exactly what I'm about to throw. So what am I going to throw now? What am I going to throw? Straight? Or a jab? Or a cross? Or a hook, overhand there. So I'm going to come, if I'm throwing a hook, then I'm just peeling off the body, and as I come round, that's when the elbow comes up, but it's on a smooth curve. So even if my hand's out here, then normally with a swinging hook, again I'd come round here, I'd either come round there, or I'd come over and hit in there. With the driving hook off the front leg, there's so many more angles available and so many more positions, and you just cannot tell what it is I'm about to throw, whether it's a jab or an overhand or a hook. It's really difficult to read that, because the core mechanics are basically very, very similar for each punch. It's just the curve and the angle that you put on the punches that change. So the cleaving chop is a punch that I've been training quite a while now, but I really thought I put name to it because it was different, and there was different angles to it, and it's quite interesting because I'm using the shockwave as well now because of the angles that it comes in at. So we've got the cleaving punch, and the cleaving shockwave, or the cleaver. So the difference, the cleaving punch is like a cross. So if I throw a cross, kinetic cross, kinetic cross. What I'm doing with the cleaver is I'm coming in a little bit higher and then I'm chopping in slightly with the cross. So rather than driving straight in, I'm coming over a little bit higher and then I'm chopping down. But I'm chopping in, I'm either cleaving in or I'm ripping across at 45 degrees. So the thing is with the cleaving chop is the power levels. It was only when I got me punching measured at the end of last year that I realised just how, just the potential of the cleave. So because of the angles that I come in at, you're looking at a power level very similar to your big hooks and the ripping cross. They were my two sort of biggest power levels that I could get. So the cleave is a very similar level to that. Because of the way the angle drops in with the cleave, say if I go to hit the eye there, then when I hit the eye, as I land there, the hand digs right across the face with loads of force. Very similar to if I throw the cleave and I rip, but that comes across at more of a 45 degree. It has different effects on the head and the way it twists and shocks the head. But that's the beauty of the cleave, is rather than me aiming for an eye and trying to punch in the eye, what I'm doing is I'm hitting roughly high and I'm just smashing down. I'm not actually looking for a specific target, a specific point to land, or a specific, it's more a certain area of the head that I'm looking to hit, and if I do hit that, then I'll smash through the other thing, the rest of it, when I land that shot. So what's interesting about this is the ability to throw the repeated shot. And because of the angle, it's a bit like the way a cat or a lion sort of attack, when it claws across like this. Then if I put that cleaving motion on this and I throw it out repeatedly, and I'm not going one cleave, two cleave, I'm throwing one as the other one's back. So it's like I've got my hands on the pedals and I'm coming round, but I'm coming across at 45 degrees. So the important bit is to come in deep into the target. Because you're cleaving in, if you're shallow, even though you're on the kinetic part of the knuckle, it'll still skim off very easily because you're coming down as such. So as I come over, the interesting thing with the cleaving punch is I can basically use a light, deep and ripping style with the cleave. But it depends on which part. If I'm hitting with the outside with the box in, it's going to be nowhere near as powerful. If I'm hitting on the inside, on the kinetic part of the knuckle, then it's a significant step up, just like all the other punches. So with a cleaving light snap, rather than me coming in and driving across or cleaving down as I hit, I'm coming out and then I'm digging in and snapping straight back, but with a cleave on the end rather than a light snap. So with a light snap, cleave. So with the kinetic part of the knuckle, it's got a step up in power than the light snap, but in the boxing glove, it's got less power than the light snap. So we've got the cleaving punch, and I'm coming in like this, but it's kinetic punch. Rather than if I was throwing a boxing punch, it looks very similar. But I'm coming over on the kinetic line with that. But I've also got the closer punch that I demonstrated, that's basically a really close version of the cleave, but it's a swing, and it swings more. It's more of a swinging motion, because it's closer, it comes across more. Like I demonstrated in part 2 with the close cleave, when I tilt my wrist forward, close up, then when I'm further out here with my wrist tilted forward, then when I do the hammer fist motion, I can do that swing but land on the knuckle. with a punch. So when I'm further down I can do it, but when I'm higher I've also got the options, and there's more available angles swinging in with the hammer punch rather than the hammer fist. So I'm not hitting with the soft part underneath, I'm hitting with the knuckle and it's a punch. So then standard hammer fist comes down with the lower part of the knuckle on the weaker bones, and it's not lined up and it's a swing. With the kinetic hammer fist I'm coming down on the kinetic part of the knuckle, so it's actually a punch. So because it's a punch and it's on the kinetic part, there's a significant step up in power compared with the hammer fist. So you can use it in all the angles that you would use a hammer fist from, but it comes in and it hits with the kinetic part of the knuckle. So whereas with the hammer fist you're coming in and you're hitting with the lower part of the knuckle, with my wrist bent forward here, when I then hammer fist, I'm landing, it's coming in with the cleave, and I'm landing with the kinetic part. It's surprising just how powerful it is from this position. So you'll notice in the UFC how it's very rare that you see him throwing a hammer fist stood up. Basically because you're throwing across like this, the elbow gets in the way, so it's really difficult to throw the punch in, to throw the hammer fist in when you're sort of stood up, because you've got to sort of come across and whip the elbow in. It takes up so much more room. Even with a boxing punch, there's nowhere near the whip in the elbow that there is in the hammer fist. So when I'm stood up, then because it's more of a punch, then again I'm not locking the wrist, I'm just bending it down, and then I'm throwing the hammer fist motion, but rather than coming in here where I have to come deeper with the elbow to drive the pad of the hand in, then I can actually keep the elbow out here. So there with the hammer fist I have to come in, look how close the elbow is, then the elbow stays out, I'm still hitting with the kinetic part of the knuckle. I'm going to run through the hammer punch on the ground in detail on the next clip, which is going to be on the ground punching. But for now, just have a little look. So, ordinary hammer fist, I swing in, I hit with the lower part of the pad. When I tilt the wrist forward for the hammer punch, then I can do the same motion, but I'm coming down with the kinetic part of the knuckle. So, it's much stronger than a hammer fist basically, because it's a punch. I can reach the same sort of positions with the hammer fist. I can hammer fist there, tilt my wrist, I can hammer punch. So another interesting thing, which I'll go to in detail on the other, is you've also got extra reach on the hammer punch than you have with a hammer fist. So that'll be on clip number 4, and that's going to be on the ground punching. So if I'm throwing a boxing overhand, then you get some real wild sort of versions. There's no need to throw your hand right around. I mean, people can see that coming a mile off. When you think about it, another reason to throw this big swing over is so your head is out of the way and you're coming down on an angle that's not available in the boxing punch. So with the kinetic punch, that angle is available and I've already got the head movement on that. But I don't need to swing my hand right back and to come over to land on that. I can just drive in on that particular angle. But all I'm doing is I'm just coming over on a curve and then at 45 degrees. That's what I call an overhand. So in the boxing gloves, from a guard, when I throw the overhand, I have to turn and rotate to come round, and then I come off. So there, as I'm throwing the overhand there, I'd hit and I'd rip off or I'd cleave off as I landed. That'd be the same with the MMA glove or the smaller gloves. As I came out, I'd come over. So rather than a straighter shot in the boxing gloves, the overhand would come out, and then I'd come out and turn and rotate as I come over. Still coming in on the outside of the knuckle. Kinetically, I've got it, so that's more or less across. Any more of a curve on that, that becomes an overhand. So I'm not twisting, no rotation, no twist. I'm coming over and dropping straight in, meaning I can finish the punch at any angle. When you're twisting, it's because you're in the wrong position. And it's the same with the part of the knuckle on the overhand as well. If I come over with a kinetic overhand, then I'm landing in line with the two knuckles. If I come over with a boxing overhand, then I'm swinging out here and I'm landing on that part of the knuckle. So as soon as I land there, I'm coming over here, as soon as I land there, it skims off. Whereas on a smoother curve, I'm using more efficient mechanics there because I'm lining up the stronger part of the knuckle. By twisting the body, I can drive it straight in rather than coming out over on the outside there where it spits straight off. We also get a bit extra head movement with the kinetic punch as well. So if we look at a basic sort of straight punch here, when I come out there, or I'm coming over with a cross, then I'm leaning over, and you can see how far I lean over. With the kinetic punch, straight, standard punch, straight, kinetic punch, straight, standard punch, straight, kinetic punch, straight, standard punch, straight. So you can see with a standard punch, you've got less head movement than you have with the kinetic punch. So when I'm with the left hook, if I'm coming up with a left hook, then with a standard swinging punch, then I'll come in there and I drive my head over, and you see how far it moves over there, swinging in. When I'm coming over that way, I drive it in and I swing it over. And when I'm coming over on the top, I do that same thing. Now with the kinetic punch, you can see how when I drive, the head movement is significantly more head movement, just from that much stronger position. So I thought we'd have a little comparison with speed. So imagine that, imagine if the kinetic punch was faster than a boxing punch. More powerful, faster. Where does it end? Let's have a look. So what I did to have a look at the timing of the speed is I did versions of each punch, slowed them down, and then started them at the point where I started my movement and finished them at the point where I'd finished my movement back in the position I started from. And then I measured that time. This first punch is a boxing punch with a cleaving light snap. Kinetic punch with a light snap. Boxing cross, cleaving light snap. Kinetic cross, light snap. Another thing you can't see there is, even though I'm hitting in at the same sort of distance, because it's a shallower swing with the boxing punch, there's nowhere near as much impact. Let's have a little look between the difference with the hooks. So from here, I'm going to come in with various left hooks. So here, outside here, and over on here. And you'll see that because they're swings, as I'm moving, I have to bring this out to then swing it back in. So with the kinetic hook, I'm not bringing it out to swing it in, I'm peeling off on a curve. So you can see that it's very close with the jab, but as you get, the bigger the hooks or the more powerful the shots, the quicker it is to throw the kinetic punch. So the kinetic punch is quicker than the boxing punch. Like I explained in the earlier clips, the reason why the kinetic punch is quicker when I'm punching is I'm doing less movement. There's less stuff to think about with the driving punch than there is with the swing. Let's look at a boxing swing. When I come out and I rotate and I swing round, then if I just swing in and then land, then that's a push. I have to do something on the end of that to create a snap. So if I swing round here, that's a swing coming in. I have to create another swing to come back for that snap. So with a boxing punch, I swing coming in and then I swing to come out. With a kinetic punch, I drive to come in and then I'm either pulling back or I'm coming out, but I don't need to add this swinging motion. I'm just doing this. I'm just coming in. I'm just reaching out. So when we look at boxing gloves and the shockwaves, then there's a significant difference in the amount of shockwaves I can do in boxing gloves compared with the kinetic punch. So because I can't get onto the power line in the boxing gloves, the only shockwave available to me is the kleaving shockwave. Because I'm always having to drive the shot in, or when I'm hooking, I'm having to come in, then it's only really the cleave that's available to you with the boxing punch or variations on that. So I can do a light snapping cleave, I can do a ripping cleave, or I can hit deep with a deeper cleave, but it's only the cleaving style punch that's available on the outside knuckle. So the shockwaves with the kinetic punch, I can do all the cleaving ones that are available in the boxing punch. I can also do the light shockwave, the deep shockwave, the ripping shockwave. The ripper is 70% more power than the light snap. You can't do the full ripper in the boxing gloves, only the cleaving ripper, nowhere near the penetration. You've also got the kinetic chop with the kinetic punch that drives the shot in harder, that you can't do with the boxing glove. So there's only one of the shockwaves that I can do in the boxing gloves, so it's a big restriction, all because of the thumb position in the gloves. Let's look at the timing on the shockwaves with the kinetic punch, light shockwave, deep shockwave, ripping shockwave and the cleave. So light snap, deep snap, rip, cleave, so I've gone through in clear detail all the differences in the punches and where are we now. So when we look at the power, I talk a lot about power. Power isn't everything, but it certainly helps. So with the kinetic punch, just by using a driving punch on the kinetic part puts 40% on your straight and 30% power on your hooks. 35% on your straight on the ground, up to 50% with your hooks on the ground. So that's a massive step up already. So with the speed of the punches, you can see how the kinetic punch edges it, and with the bigger hooks, with the more powerful punches, with the hook there's at least a second difference, so that's a second quicker than the swinging hooks. I mean, that's massive. So you've got a big step up in speed as well across the board. When we look at angles, because of the driving punches rather than the swings, then there's much more available angles, and because I can punch around corners and I can put more of a curve on the punches, then many more angles available in stronger positions. So you can deliver more powerful punches in other angles that aren't available in the boxing gloves. So when I talk about precision, then that's another thing with the drive. When I'm driving in, I've got much more precision, much more control. It's not like a swing. When I throw a swing and it's gone, I've got control over this drive. And again, when you add the precision with the shock waves, if I'm too close, then I can only do a shock wave. It's another level in precision. So reach, I've shown you how that you've got extra reach with a kinetic punch. Now there's a real good reason, you know, on top of everything else, you can punch further, and I showed you on the second clip with the punching round corners, you've got more reach in the hooking punches as well. When I add the shock waves to that, say I've got 40% on this, if I then add a deep snap on that, then that's 70% more power than a boxing snap. When I then add a rip on the end instead, then that's 110% more power. So, same with the hooks. You think if you're throwing a boxing cleave, then that will have nowhere near the power of a deep snap with a hook. When I then use the deep ripping snap, then again, that's got the same step up, that's 70% more on the hook. So you're looking at a massive step up across the range with power. Close range, I showed you how there's many more angles, more power, more shock and awe available to be delivered at close range than the boxing punch as well. Everyone talks about how important head movement is. With the extra head movement, with the kinetic punch, much more efficient, and you're much more further out of the way than you would be with a boxing punch. People are conditioned to counter a boxing punch with somebody who's thrown a boxing punch. If they're countering what they think is a boxing punch and you're throwing kinetic punch, your head's in a different place. So there's a good chance they'll miss. So what does this say for boxing? It doesn't say anything for boxing. Boxing is an excellent sport. What this says is, I've got the absolute perfect add-on to your boxing for MMA or BKB. I've shown you across the board here where it beats the boxing punch hands down. But that's what it's for. It's an add-on for the boxing, for the MMA or the BKB or anywhere you can't use them bloody boxing gloves. So the boxing gloves and the thumb position is the only thing stopping boxers throwing with the kinetic punch. And you think Manny Pacquiao or Mayweather, with their fight over 12 rounds, if they were using the kinetic punch, then that would be 420% more available power each. So would that make it more exciting? Hell yes. So with it being the absolute perfect defensive add-on for the boxing, then what it means is all the defensive work that you know in the boxing, all the footwork that you know in the boxing, you can just add the kinetic punch to this, and then it'll just level up everything that you're doing across the board. So it'll lift your power, your speed, your precision, your angles, it'll improve your reach, it'll improve your head movement, and it'll improve the shock and awe on the end of the punch when you land across the board. So in part 4, I'll show you how all the advantages that you've got standing up with your punches, you get on the ground as well. And we'll look at some other strikes and the improvements with the shockwaves you can use with the other strikes on the ground as well. Going to be interesting, this one.